preparing to make the reagents for the phosphorus test. First, we're going to make up a PAT solution, and PAT stands for potassium antimony tartrate sesquiterhydrate. So when you make this, make sure you are using the right reagent. I found many chemicals with a similar kind of name. So that we make 500 ml in DI water, and we are going to refrigerate it in a glass stopper bottle. Next, I'm going to make ammonium molybdenate. We measure that out. And we're going to make 500 ml, and we're also going to refrigerate it in a glass stoppered bottle. Next, I'm going to make ascorbic acid solution. And I'm going to make just a little bit of that, and I'm going to also store that refrigerated, but make sure it is used within 5 days. Strong acid solution is the concentrated sulfuric acid, and there's a little bit of nitric in it, and I have some here already made. And then we need a phosphorus stock solution, so this is going to be a double dilution. We're going to measure out potassium phosphate monobasic, and then we're going to measure out a certain amount in 500 ml, and then we're going to take 10 ml of that and dilute it to 1000 ml. So we should have about 1 ppm when we're done, and then I'm going to store in the refrigerator. To do the orthophosphate test, and I have my glassware all ready to go. I have a phosphorus solution here that I made using the potassium dihydrogen phosphate, and it should be about 1 ppm, and I'm going to use that to make my standards. You're also going to have a control sample, which is going to be made out of this Hock 1000 milligram per liter standard. So I'm going to dilute 0.5 in 1000 milliliters to make a 0.5 ppm sample. Then I am also testing the Fox River water as a test sample, and our soil sample that I extracted the phosphorus out of. I am going to dilute this in half because I have half the amount of sample. So I'm get ready to do that. I'm going to pour some of this off and make my dilutions. So for my blank, I filled to 50 mils. For my 0.02 milligrams per liter, I am going to add 1 ml of the phosphorus standard, this one here, that I made. So I'll do that.
That's my plan anyway. So we'll be.
There you go. All right. For the next one, for the 0.1 standard, add 5 mils of my phosphate standard. And I got this set to 5. Alright, for the next one, the 0.20 standard, I add 10 mils on my standard. I'm going to change this to 10. Alright, for the 0.50, I'm going to add 25 mils of my phosphate standard. And I'll do that after I turn off the camera. For the 1, it is filling the 50 mils with my standard. My control sample, I am going to add
do that and remind me if I forget, but I will.
I'm going to change this to
here.
0.5.
Thank you, though. Yeah.
And I'll change my tip.
And then onward, huh? Okay. So we're processing solid waste
All right.
to reduce the volume or weight,
And I'm going to add 0.5
improve handling.
of the Hawk
And
standard.
conserving the airspace. So airspace, you remember
Add
the
that
term
to this.
airspace, right? It's just basically the volume that's being,
I will then dilute this up to 1,000, mix,
only so much
and
airspace
fill this
that
to 50
landfill
mils.
is permitted for.
And then my Fox River sample, I filled to 50 mils.
Process things to get them.
My soil phosphorus, I did 25 mils of my
remove some
phosphorus
recycled
sample
material,
and 25 mils of DI
to
water.
incinerate it and drastically reduce the volume.
It's diluted up. We're going to take each of our samples and add it to a flask. So next, for each flask, we're going to add 1 drop of phenolphthalein. So if the samples here turn pink, you add some 5N sulfuric acid. Let's take a look, see if any of them have turned pink. Looks pretty good to me. Next on the list. So next we are making the combined reagent. You're going to add 10 mils of the PAT solution. And I already did that. 30 mils of the ammonium valproate solution. 60 mils of the ascorbic acid. And 100 mils of the sulfuric acid. So I already added the PAT. I'm just going to keep adding and adding. And then I will slowly add the sulfuric acid.
In there. I don't know what the frequency is offhand. Yep, it's not unusual. I mean, a lot of taking sewage, clean, and then after you clean them.
Make sure it's not getting too warm here.
Like little robotic things.
Feeling pretty good.
Wheels, I've seen, they probably come in all shapes and sizes, and then basically. What they're called?
Feels pretty good.
Okay.
Alright. Next we are going to add 8 mils of the combined reagent to each flask. And I will do that to each of these standards and control sample and test sample. After I am done with that, I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes for color development. So while we are waiting, we're going to make sure our spectrophotometer is working properly by verifying the photometric accuracy using these different standards. So right now it's set to 510 and it's set on absorbance, but we have to change it to 590 and change it to transmittance. So we're going to change our mode and we're on transmittance. I'm going to set our wavelength to 590, enter. So I have changed it to transmittance, set to 590. Right now, nothing in there. I'm going to measure a blank. Alright, I'm going to take out one of these standards. This one should be about 9.2. Let's put it in there. Should be about, there we go, 9.1. Very good. Let's take this one out. Let's take a 50% transmittance. 50.4. Take a look at our range. 50 should be between 47.5 and 52.5, so we are good to go. We are going to use rectangular cuvettes for phosphorus. So I will remove this and put this center on. Alright, we are ready to go when we can. It has been 20 minutes and now we are going to take readings on all of our standards and our test samples. So for the directions we have to change the wavelength. 880. Change wavelength. 880. We gotta change the mode back to absorbance. There we go. So I poured my blank sample into rectangular cuvettes. Clean the sides, get the fingerprints off, and put it in the spectrophotometer. And we're already at 880, so we are going to measure blank. It's at 0. So we'll get our next sample ready. Then I'll clean off the sides and clear it with the wipes. Now if I had two hands, I would pour a little bit of this in there, swish it around, dump it, and then refill it to clean. Put this one in here. There we go. I'll write that down. Alright, I'm going to remove that and do all the rest of our standards. Pour a little bit of this in here, swish it, dump it in there, refill it, clean the sides, put it in the spectrophotometer, and close the lid. Doing that with all of these. Here are my results from the spectrophotometer for the different standards. So this one dipped down a little bit, something funky with this one here, but it all goes up nicely, makes a nice curve. This one right here is my 0.5 control standard, and you see that value is very close to the standard here that I made. Here is our Fox River sample, a very low reading. So it would be less than 0.10, somewhere in between there. In our soil sample, too much phosphorus, it's above range. We would have to take that sample and dilute it down even farther.